Let's have some fun. Trust and courage under fire. How many people in war would have survived if they didn't trust the person next to them implicitly and have courage under fire? It's easy to have courage when you're not under fire. Oh yes, I'm full of courage. The first bullet was flying, boom, run for the hills. Okay, so we've escaped Egypt. And a couple of months later, Yahweh instructs us to check out the land that he's promised us. This is what we come all this way for. And 40 days later, 10 of our team of 12 spies arrive back in camp from Canaan and tell us that the good news is that the land's flowing with milk and honey as promised, and show us fruit to prove it. But then they say, now we'll tell you the bad news. And the bad news is that we might as well give up now because we face insurmountable odds and we need to go and find somewhere else to live because the opposition's overwhelming. So what's our response? Do we A, curl up in a ball and give up, making plans to return to what we know? Notice every time that they came under pressure, their instinct was to go back to Egypt. Our instinct is always to go back to what we know when we come under pressure.
And Egypt represents sin, doesn't
It represents sin, it represents our old life, it represents the slavery that we were in before he set us free. But we're used to it. B, do we throw an all-night party and a pity party and blame Yahweh and the leaders for the whole shemazel? Or C, actually trust the promise giver himself, who had already set them free, met every one of their needs, and promised to deliver them to the land, and the land to them, if, like Caleb, they agreed to go up immediately and take possession of it, because there is no question that we can conquer it. That's my kind of follower, my kind of believer. Well, how does he know that? Because he knows it's not dependent on him. If it was dependent on him, he might as well pack up and go home. But he's saying, you guys, you've missed the point. He has brought us here because he's promised to give it to us and us to it. And he will make it happen, not us. It's not a question of whether we can achieve it or not. It's a question of the fact that he can achieve it. There is no doubt, no question. If he wants to give it to us, he'll give it to us. And notice the other thing it says that he's already taken away their defense. He is the one that's shifting them out of the land to make room for us to come in.
They earn so little of the land because there's so few believers.
Exactly. And just like Caleb and Yehoshua, I put my trust in the promises that I've heard from Yahweh, not in what I've seen with my physical eyes. So many times in here you see people choose what they see with their eyes instead of what they've heard from him. And it's never good news when that happens. I don't look at what I've seen with my physical eyes. I don't base it on overwhelming odds, obstacles and giants and difficulties and opposition. There's always going to be giants. There's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be opposition to whatever we do. And like those two, I am an encourager and not a discourager. And I've talked about it before. You can either encourage, give people courage, or you can discourage and take courage away from them. And what these 10 guys did was steal their courage. The other two tried to encourage them. So I'm an encourager, not a discourager. Of course we will plant other Kehilat here in New Zealand, including the residential teaching community. Of course we will raise up and lead teams who will return to Jerusalem from the ends of the earth, reaping a mighty harvest as they go. Of course Yeshua's body will be healed and restored. And of course we will establish a congregation in Jerusalem as a base for this worldwide restoration. Why? Because I say we will? Absolutely not. But because Abba says we will. And only he can make a way where there is no way. Of course we will inherit the promises if we trust, obey, and put it into action. Yahweh's plan, his way, and in his perfect timing. Because of that, there's no question that these things will happen, and other things that we don't know that yet. Of course it will happen. There is no question that we cannot do it. If we trust him and we're obedient. So when they finally did enter the land, 40 years later, the only time that they failed was when they took matters into their own hands. And they left Yahweh's presence, the ark, behind and decided that they were so big and strong that they were going to go and conquer. So they left the ark behind and tried to carry out their own plans in their own strength, which is always a surefire recipe for disaster. And it cost them a whole generation. And 40 years, one for each day, the spies reconnoitred the land. All 10 of the discouragers died, and only the 2 encouragers, the 2 tribal leaders, survived. Caleb of Yehudah and Yehoshua of Ephraim. So why didn't they go in? They were there 40 years before. Yahweh didn't turn around to them and say, I want you to go around again. He said, you're here. There it is. Go for it. And they chickened out. Why didn't they go in? Because they didn't trust Yahweh. And they certainly didn't trust their leaders. And what they wanted is the same as a lot of groups want today. An easy ride. With everything handed to them on a plate. They want their rights. Not worried about the wrongs, they just want their rights. They want it handed to them on a plate, requiring absolutely no effort or risk, with everything done their way on their terms. They want to be bottle fed. They rejected all of the promises, saying it was just too hard, and made plans to elect their own leader and return back to tradition, back to good old Egypt. Back to the good old church, back to the good old whatever you come from. Because we know that, we have friends there. You forget the promises he made, you forget the direction that he put you in, and you want to return back to what you know, because it seems safe. If you want safe, you're in the wrong place. This is not a safe place. It requires courage. Stickability.
You know, first to go into a delusion, and no man will take them into it.
So many people get fearful and confused as they waver and stop at the first obstacle. Everything's fine, everything's wonderful, but at the sign of the first obstacle, the first opposition, they get fearful and confused, and any sign of difficulty, they run back to all of their former traditions and lives. They go back when the going gets tough. When the going gets tough, the tough certainly get going, they run. And yet, these same people get very excited and shout and dance when they hear what they want to hear. They get really excited and shout and dance when things are said to them that promise them something with no effort, for free. They get excited and shout and dance when they're promised health, wealth and success. They queue up to the doors. I had a friend and he was one of the lecturers at Faith Bible College, and he went over to Texas and went there and spent time as one of the pastors and one of the lecturers at the Bible College over in Texas. And he said that when he went along, they took him along to the church that they went to, and you couldn't get near it for guys in tuxes and women in fur coats. And the motto of this church was, get up get up the front near the spout where the blessing comes out. So all these people with fur coats and fancy things and all driving up in Cadillacs and things, they were the first at the door, pushing their way in because they wanted to get up the front and get all the blessings. And just imagine how excited they'd have been if Yeshua had said to them some of the things he said to the Persian. You vipers, who warned you to come here? Oh yes, we believe, they say. Tickle our ears and promise us more. But we don't want any of that negative stuff, all about persecution and accountability. Feed us more sugary desserts and flavoured milk that gives us such a once-a-week high. We come here for a once-a-week high. Pump us up for the week. Doesn't matter the fact that we deflate slowly over the coming week and then we have to come back and get pumped up again. Feed us more sugar. Give us flavoured milk. Give it to us at just the right temperature. But don't give us any of that meat that we've got to chew for ourselves. And digest? No. So will we be discouraged by the majority who think that it all depends on them? Do we take notice of the 10 or the 2? Or will we remember just whose side we're on? Will we accept the 2 good reports and ask, can he do it? And then proclaim, yes he can. You know the Bob the Builder? Can he do it? Yes he can. And then align ourselves with Abba's plan to go in straight away and not waste another 40 years in the wilderness. So many times we come up against a thing and the first sign of a problem, we give up. And what he's saying is, do you want to go around again for a few years? Or do you want to just go back, ask me how to do it, let me prepare it, and go in again? But go in again my way. When he brings us to the point of wanting us to go in and take ground, we go in. We don't waste time. I don't want to be one that in 40 years' time we've fallen by the wayside and the younger generation go in. What a waste of time and people. They couldn't get rid of the slave mentality. You could take them out of Egypt, but you couldn't take Egypt out of them. And it's the same with a lot of people. They want the best of both worlds. They want to carry on all of the traditions of Egypt, but live in this. You can't. So what is it that we're entering into? What does it spend more time talking about in here than anything else? The kingdom. Yeshua spent more time talking about the kingdom and the Father than anything else. We don't have to wait until we physically die to get it. It's like I've said, it's not pie in the sky by and by. It's steak on the plate while you wait. Mate. One of my Australian ones that I picked up from somebody.
What was the first part of that?
It's not pie in the sky by and by, but steak on the plate while you wait.
Pie in the sky.
Yeah. So all these people that are dreaming of this heavenly mansion that they're going to, we live it now. We don't have to wait. We need to live in the kingdom now.
It's a reality, because that fear and loneliness and all those horrible things.
The thing he said, when you go and make them into Talmudim, immerse them into reality. The reality of what I've taught. Didn't say, give them a sermon, preach them this, give them a set of rules. He said, immerse them into the reality of the kingdom. We can only do that as ambassadors by living kingdom principles among them. We don't have to wait till we physically die to get in. The kingdom's already here. The kingdom has come to us. And we need to live in it and promote it right now, today. And we show those around us kingdom principles such as sowing and reaping, unconditionally loving and forgiving, meekness, which is not weakness. Meekness is strength under control. Mercy, purity of heart, peacemaking, not peacekeeping. Never once said be a peacekeeper. It said be a peacemaker, and that's a little bit harder. Not always popular.
So what's the difference?
The difference is that you make peace by giving people the truth and getting them to realise that they've made mistakes and come together again. Peacekeeping is just letting everything go along and not rocking the boat. Peace, and there is no peace. Why? Because they haven't dealt with the root of the problem. Peacemakers deal with the root of the problem. And often it can be a very noisy and messy time, but it's the only way to bring healing. Sometimes you've got to tear down before you can build up again. And we need a hunger and thirst for righteousness in the face of persecution and rejection. It's easy to hunger and thirst for righteousness. Not so easy when you're doing it in the face of persecution and rejection. Matit Yahu is the Kingdom Guidebook. You want a guidebook to the kingdom? Read Matit Yahu. And it confirms over and over again principles that were founded from the beginning of time. The kingdom is a kingdom that we will spend eternity with the King of the kingdom.
Hallelujah.
And you say, yes, I've been through the whole book, fine. But has it been through you? I picked that up from a DVD we watched. And somebody had asked the rabbi, and he'd gone to the rabbi and said, I've been all through the Torah. And he said, yeah, but has the Torah been through you? And I loved it, so I thought I'd use it. Study in detail and you will live long and prosper in the land as you follow the everyday practical guidelines. Chapter 5 goes for the jugular, straight to the heart of kingdom living. In chapter 6, Yeshua raises the bar for us by teaching us his prayer formula on how to pray. It's not a prayer, it's a formula. It's a way of showing us how to pray. It doesn't say, pray this, and everything will be wonderful. It says, this is the formula for how you pray to the Father.
Comes from the Shemona Esrei.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a formula. And what he's saying is, don't make it a begging exercise. Don't make it think you're Santa's grotto and you've got your list of all the things. And you might get them depending on whether you're naughty or nice. It doesn't work that way. He's saying, give thanks. Acknowledge who he is. Give thanks for everything he gives, because he knows what you want, what you need, before you even ask. All you're doing is thanking him for it in advance. It takes a lot more trust to thank him for things in advance than after you've already got them. How many fathers are going to be stone-hearted when they hear their child every day saying, oh, thank you for the bike, thank you for the bike. Guess what the father's going to want to do? Exactly.
Don't teach that to your children. Then they might end up just getting what they want.
So he uses his prayer formula on how to pray, not what to pray. Then he goes on to teach us how to trust and not to worry, how not to be anxious about things, and reject society's current insecure, greed-driven consumer culture. Then in 7 he warns us to be on our guard against religious legalism and all of its hard, harsh, merciless concepts. 16 gives us the keys to the kingdom, with all the authority we will ever need in every situation. In every situation we face, we have all the authority we need. How many of us actually use it? Oh no, the giants are around. Oh, they're too big. Oh, it'll never happen. Oh, the obstacles. I think I'll nip back to Egypt.
No.
But we need to actually practice using the keys, not just memorize what they sound like and look like. So many people can turn, well, not, a few people can turn around and tell you what the keys are, and they know what they look like, but they've never actually picked them up and used them. We've got to have a practice session of opening all the locks that they're meant to fit. How many of you know about the keys, but how many of you know what locks they're meant to fit? And actually go in there and turn them. We need to start practicing using the keys. That's what they're there for. Ask him what the keys are in every situation, and ask him to show you how to unlock the situation. When we use the key in the right door and the right lock, and we open it, it allows the doors to swing wide open and set multitudes of captives free, including ourselves. You know the difference between a prison and a castle? In a prison, all the handles are on the inside and the doors are locked. In a castle, you can just go outside whenever you want. So are you living in a prison or a castle? They both look the same from the outside. We need to use the keys. And moving on in 24, he promises deliverance in times of trouble and ultimate success if we diligently follow his plan. How many of us believe that in every situation, no matter how bleak it looks? Well, in 25, it gets even more exciting as he sends out the wedding feast invitations. Have you got yours yet? And he also sends out the conditions for receiving them in verses 34 to 46. So if I warned you in advance that in exactly 1 week's time, on Shabbat, half an hour before the end of the meeting, that it's going to pour with torrential rain, and guaranteed it 100% with a word from Abba, and to tell you that in spite of that, you're not to stay away from the meeting. And you all reply enthusiastically, we believe you. Well, maybe not. The chances are that I'll get 3 responses next week. Some people will just stay away anyway. Some people will turn up, but they won't have an umbrella with them, which means they didn't really believe me. And 3, some will arrive with big golf umbrellas to shelter other people as well. As a leader, what do these responses say to me? What does this tell me as a leader? That the first group is cold and just told me what they think I want to hear. And they need to work on their trust and commitment issues. The second group are lukewarm and didn't actually believe me or even give me the benefit of the doubt. And they certainly didn't check it out with Yahweh because they follow their own agenda and always know best. But the last group, the ones with the golf umbrellas, these are my favourites. They're hotties. They actually believed me and they checked it out for themselves and are 110% committed, prepared and ready for any eventuality, regardless of personal comfort or convenience. These are the group that will get the job done. These are the kingdom-focused residents, not just observers or day visitors. Lots of people are quite happy with the kingdom, but they just want to go and visit once a week. Or they just want to stand up there with a telescope and peep in and see what's happening. We're meant to live in the kingdom, not just observe it, not just be a day visitor, while we're making our mind up. Most of us here today are full-time kingdom residents. We are not camping in the wilderness or still waiting for the waters to part. That's already happened. Jericho has already fallen in our lives. And we have already gone in and inherited the land, the kingdom. And now we need to roll up our spiritual sleeves and rebuild and restore while we invite as many non-residents as possible to emigrate. Our job is to ask non-residents to emigrate to the kingdom. Why would they want to? Unless they see something that would attract them, or hear something that would attract them. They need to see us live our lives as kingdom residents in a different way, so that they say, oh, I'd like to live there, I'd like to be part of that. They're not too keen on groups that turn around and tell them that they should be flogged every day and follow all the rules and cold and hard and no joy. Who'd want to go and live in a place like that? We need to tell them it's possible to emigrate and take on all of the advantages and responsibilities of kingdom citizenship. It's time to leave the past behind where it belongs and look forward to a full, productive working life of service within the kingdom. But be warned, the kingdom is not a social club. It's not a retirement village, and it's not a holiday camp. Today is the day that we enter his rest, because it says there remains a Shabbat, a day when we rest from our works, laying aside all of our plans and ambitions. And then and only then can we fully enter his rest, using the key of trust to gain entrance today. How did I enter into Shabbat today? Through the key of trust. Multitudes have been called and have heard all the messages and all the plans and all the programs that have been put together. They've heard it all. They heard all the visions and all the prophecies and all the tapes and all the TV programs. They heard it all. But they haven't combined it with trust and therefore haven't entered in. Today, many, many, many have fallen injured by the wayside. And the ones that have fallen injured are not the backsliders. They're not the least committed. Most of the ones that have fallen by the wayside are the most committed. Why have they fallen by the wayside? Because they've become broken-hearted by what they've seen. They've fallen injured by the wayside, waiting for someone to bring them healing and not judgment.
Amen.
It's time for us to pick them up, dust them off, put them on our shoulders, and bring healing in their lives, and stop pointing fingers at them. Many are disillusioned and discouraged, and they need encouragement and not condemnation today. Many lack basic physical needs that we need to source and provide, serving and giving to them with mercy, not pity, not charity, which is what people give to appease their guilt. A few pennies on the plate and they don't feel so guilty. That's charity. We don't give charity, we show mercy. We don't show pity, we don't give charity today. Many need a miracle, a way where there is no way. And we need to pray alongside them and be willing to be part of that miracle. And not part of making a name for ourselves, strutting around on a glittering stage with TV lights on us. Send us your envelope. The more you send, the more of a miracle you're going to get. Send us a handkerchief and we'll send it back blessed. Send us your money and we'll bless you. We'll go up to the prayer tower and pray for you. Desperate people doing desperate things, and they play on it. So much money leaving these shores to go to places where they're only there to rake it in so they can buy bigger Learjets and bigger mansions and bigger cars. They need more money. The Learjet's getting old. They need a new one. I'm not talking in theory here. I'm talking about actual cases that I've heard about. Many live in permanent fear of the real and the imagined. Feelings rule their lives. So we need to show them unconditional love and forgiveness, which leads to trust and freedom today. Many are just plain broken. And we need to come alongside and help them pick up the pieces. Take them to the same restorer that fixed us, and not cast them aside on the scrap heap today. We've all been to the restorer. We've all been put back together. We just need to come alongside other people in the same position and take them to the same restorer. I know my dad can fix them.
Yeah.
I've seen him fix people before. I've seen him fix... You know, if your father was a restorer and restored cars, and you saw this old wreck of a thing, you turn and they'd say, oh, we're going to send it off to be squashed. And you say, no, let me take it to my dad. He can make it like brand new again. And they say, nah. And they say, he can. I've seen him do it before. It's the same with us, with people. There is no such thing as something that's beyond repair for Yahweh. He can repair anything, anyone. I know, I've seen him do it. I've felt him do it. Nothing like being in the panel beaters. Spraying's not so bad, but panel beating. You only want to go through it once.
Look at the menorah, it's hammered,
Yes,
it's wrought, it's
exactly.
worked.
Yes.
And this would go pure. Have you turned your thing up?
Hmm?
Have you turned the machine on?
Be a bit late now, Dad.
Yeah.
So, we've just been through a few weeks of discussing gifts. What are your gifts? How do they work in you? How have you been called to serve today? We are not just the receivers of a gift from Yahweh, we are the gift. The only reason we receive gifts from him is to make it possible for us to be the gift. We are Yahweh's gift to those in need. And like any gift, we don't get to decide how the gift is received and how it's treated. It's not our business. Once the gift has been given to the receiver, it's between them and him. We don't get to decide how the gift is handled or how it's treated. It simply meets the needs of the recipient as perceived by the giver today. Many multitudes are crying out in desperation to their Heavenly Father because their asked for and badly needed gift hasn't arrived yet. Millions out there are crying out to him and saying, we trust you, we believe you for the gift, but it hasn't arrived. Maybe we're the reason for the delay. Maybe we're the gift and we haven't been delivered yet. Maybe we're part of the delayed answer. Maybe we should be willing to say, yes, send me, now. Maybe we should ask him to restore the call on our lives today and turn us back into the gift that he had always meant us to be. So shalom, amidst lavav, Braveheart, shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.